I went on Google and decided to play some Pac-Man because I wanted to find out how many points I can score before a monster got to me. So what I did was I played 7 rounds of Pac-Man and wrote down how many points I scored each of those 7 times before a monster got to me. In this video, I will be showing you how to do pages 5 and 6 for your data project. But before you can even do page 5, you want to make sure that you typed in your data in page 4. Now let's do page 5. The first thing we want you to do is to draw your tick marks, just like the blue lines that I did below. Now also use those dotted lines to help you draw those tick marks. Now we need to decide how large our bins are going to be. Now, you have to look at your data and decide, are you going to count by tens? Or are you going to count by 20s, 1,000? What are you going to do? For example, for my histogram, I'm going to use bins of 1,000, meaning that I'm going to count by 1,000. Now it's time to go to the bottom and label your bins. Now remember, I'm deciding to label by 1,000, so that's why I put 1,000, 2,000, and so on. For your histogram, it's your choice, so you decide how much you want to count. Now, we want you to label your x-axis with words. For my example, I wrote scores for each round of Pac-Man. Now go ahead and label your x-axis. Alright, now it's your turn to draw your bars. And the first thing I did was I decided to type my data again in Desmos. And the reason why I wanted to do that is I wanted to circle the numbers that I used. Now, for example, look at the bottom. I need to count how much data goes from 0 to 1,000. And so if I look at my data, I see 2 numbers, 930 and 400, that go from 0 to 1,000. So my bar is going to go up to 2 because I have 2 numbers in my data. Now you can see the rest of the bars that I'm drawing. Here's the next bar and the next bar and the last bar. And you can see how I color coded them. For page 6, we are changing our requirements. You do not need to use 3 vocabulary words, despite what it says. Instead, for page 6, you just need to use 1 vocabulary word, but you need to make sure you write 3 sentences. Now, I'm going to teach you some words that you could use for page 6. For example, we could use the word peak. A peak is a bar that is taller than the neighboring bars. In this histogram, there's a peak between -6 and 4 because that bar is higher and taller than the neighboring bars. In my histogram, you can say that there are 3 peaks between 0 and 1,000, 3,000 and 4,000, and 5,000 and 6,000. Here's a sentence frame that you can use for page 6. There's a peak between blank and blank. Another word that you can use for this project is the word cluster. A cluster is when data seems to be close around the number. A sentence frame that you could use for cluster is blank make a cluster because they are close to. I looked at my data and I wrote 3,180 and 3,130 make a cluster because they are close to each other. You can also write a sentence that says, there is no data between blank. For example, I looked at my histogram and I wrote this sentence. Another word that you can use is the word symmetrical. Symmetrical is basically when the left side of the graph looks the same as the right side of the graph. A sentence that I wrote is, my histogram is not symmetrical because the left side is not the same as the right side. By the way, does your histogram have only one peak? If yes, you can talk about the word skewed. Skewed is when there's one tail that is longer than another tail. In this histogram, the first thing I did was put the peak, and then I drew the two tails. And I noticed that there is a longer tail, and it's on the right. So this histogram is skewed. And so what I wrote is, my histogram is skewed because my right tail is longer than the left tail. A sentence frame that you can use is, my histogram is skewed to the blank because my blank tail is longer than the blank tail. And by the way, you don't have to use this stuff in parentheses. You can take out the stuff in parentheses if you want. Let me teach you the steps. So the first thing you want to do is find out where your peak is and make sure that you only have one peak. If you have more than one peak, then you're not going to talk about skewed. Now, go ahead and draw the two tails. There's going to be one tail to the left of the peak, and then draw another tail to the right of the peak. And figure out which one's longer. Now we can write our sentence about skewed. Why don't you go ahead and pause this video right now and see if you can fill in the blanks. Alright, now we're going to show you the answer. Here's the sentence. My histogram is skewed to the left because my left tail is longer than the right tail. I hope this video helps you finish pages 5 and 6 of your My Dataset project. Good luck and take care. Bye.